about 4 years ago, I'm having a conversation with uh, my brother about politics. And at that time, we were really discussing Joe Biden and Bernie. And earlier in that cycle, I had I had bought into the Bernie bro propaganda that these Bernie bros were anti-black and they're trying to dismiss the black experience. Because I have felt that. Um, at that time, I was not really into economics, and um, I was a lot more ignorant last cycle. I could sense something was wrong, um, but I was looking at it only from a black perspective. And so when those talking points started circulating about, the Bernie Bros, these white dudes, whatever, that that worked on me because that's what I had experienced, online. But you know, I, the details are hazy now. But about this time, I was already back. I was I was back off Biden at that point. Um, I actually had registered Democrat that cycle just so I could vote against Biden in the primaries. As soon as I cast my vote, I switched back to independent. Um, but the reason I set that up is because I started having this conversation with my brother, um, and he wasn't advocating for Biden, but he was sharing with me the older black perspective and why older black people were skeptical of Bernie. And he lives on the East Coast. He's very plugged in with black elites on the East Coast, and so he would know more than me about their conversations they have. And he was telling me about this stuff, and I was just like, man, I don't know if I buy that, but whatever. Then I read an article. I want to say in the Atlantic, and it backed up everything that my brother had been saying about that perspective. And the gist of it was that like they've seen Bernie's come and go, um, promising X, Y, and Z, and the end result is that black people end up being worse off. So they're not going to fall for that. And it was almost like we know Biden's not going to do much for us, but he's not going to hurt us. Therefore, we're fine with that. And I remember reading that, and because it backed up what my brother had said, I was willing to fall back and be like, you know what? Maybe I'm missing something. Um, I haven't been around this earth that as long as these people. I haven't had their experience, their life experience. Maybe I'm missing something. I'm gonna fall back, and so I did. And then by the time the election rolled around, I think that whole like period of me falling back lasted about 6 months before I was kind of like, nah, I see what's going on right now. I'm not falling for that stuff no more. And my starting point was look at the state of black folks right now. We had the civil rights movement in the 60s. What progress have we seen? Let's be real about it. We have token representation on TV, in the movies, in politics. That's the best we got. We have individual black people being successful. They'll allow you to be successful, provided you remove yourself from the black community and you assimilate in white culture. So that was the dynamics I had saw that I couldn't unsee. And so when Biden made that comment that like if you're not black, you don't vote for me, that was the official last straw for me. That shit was offensive. And I couldn't believe that these people will let this dude use black people as a prop. But Biden got elected, and then these next 4 years played out. And that conversation I had with my brother was always in the back of my mind. Because I remember what those black folks told us. Those are our elders. And if you remember, Biden was doing bad before South Carolina. It looked shaky for him. Looked like Bernie's about to be a runaway train. And I think it was like New Hampshire and something else he did, and it was horrible for him. And then comes South Carolina. Jim Clyburn pushes Biden to black people. And then Biden trounces Bernie in South Carolina. And from there it was on. And it was the Bernie train was gone, and it was all Biden all the way through, right? Black people had chosen it's Biden. Boom, he's pushing it through. So remember all that. So these 4 years have gone by. Biden said day one, $2,000 check out the door in your pocket. Never happened. You got a check, but it wasn't the 2 grand. And it was less than what Trump gave people. So you're real. Canceling HCBU debt. He ran on that. Did it happen? It did not. It did not happen. Matter of fact, student loan payments restarted under Biden. So not only did he not cancel the debt, he turned the switch back on. And people wondering why they're struggling in this economy. Because under Joe Biden, what do people see? They saw their free lunches from COVID. Those went away. The stimmy checks, those went away. The extended child's tax credit, that went away. The student loan pause went to unpause. That happened again. These are tangible things that drastically changes the working class's economic conditions. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can't give people and show people what a social safety net looks like, what it feels like, and then take it away. Now you can't gaslight them. They saw it, they felt it, and it worked. Despite all the fear mongering, the doom mongering about, oh, stimulus checks and inflation, blah, 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 that's not what caused inflation. That was a supply shock. And no one even disputes that today. The conversation has gone away because no one talks about it anymore. But everybody agrees now that inflation was transitory. And it was from supply chain disruptions, which created conditions for corporate greed. It wasn't like they told you because they gave you stimmy checks. Let's be clear about this now. No economist is even saying that today. That was a narrative for the past couple of years. But I digress. To me, the biggest thing for Biden. I was off him last cycle. I was definitely off him this cycle. But the funding the genocide, that is the bridge of no return. There's no discussion for me anymore. Not even at all. Miss me with that Trump stuff. As bad as Trump was, and as bad as he theoretically could be, you cannot get worse than I'm seeing from Joe Biden right now, period. So this week, Joe Biden goes into a black church in South Carolina when support for Joe Biden around the country is collapsing among black people, among Muslims, among Hispanics, and young voters. His support is collapsing. And the biggest reason for that collapse is the funding of the genocide. The same dude who reneged on all those promises. So, oh, I can't use student loan. I don't have the votes in Congress. The Republicans are blocking me. I'm fighting for you guys, but the Republicans won't let me do it. Remember that dude? They had a vote in Congress to send more aid to Israel. Congress voted no. Was that the end of the story for Joe Biden? It wasn't. He went around Congress and sent the money. No votes. He didn't have the votes. Was the same my mom used to always tell me. Where there's a will, there's a way. There's no will to help black people. There's no will to help working class folks. There's a will to help his interests. When the railroad unions started striking, who broke that strike and ordered the rail workers back to work? Biden did that. Don't let people spin you about a year later, he came back around, he got some more stuff for those workers. That's irrelevant. He used his presidential powers to break labor power in favor of the corporations. If you don't see that, you're a fool. And you're being spun right now. He let the media tell you that the railroad workers were putting the economy in jeopardy because they wanted a living wage. He never asked the rail companies to meet their demands or negotiate in good faith. He didn't do that. He broke the strike. So there's a reason why Biden support's collapsing. He's not listening or responding to the will of the people. So he finds himself in trouble. The Obamas came back on the scene to try to rescue him because it's looking bad for your boy. So he goes to this black church in South Carolina, the site of the Dylan Roof massacre, a white supremacist. And Jim Clyburn is hosting this dude. Brings Biden into the church. Turns that black church into a prop, a political prop, to give Biden a political speech. I'm going to pause here for a second. I don't want to go too deep into this. But I'm done with black evangelicals. They showed their colors time and time again. I'm suspect of any black person worshiping a white god. And in the middle of this speech that he's giving, starts talking about uh the poison in America that's gone on too long, white supremacy. And he's framing white supremacy as Dylan Roof walking into that church and murdering people. There's an element of truth to that. But those are one of the knock-on effects of white supremacy. Those aren't the systemic things. You know what is systemic? The crime bill. Put black men behind bars disproportionately more than white people. Joe Biden co-authored that bill. He is an author of white supremacy. And so while he's clutching his pearls and talking about this awful atrocity, he gets interrupted by some protesters calling him out for, if you really cared about this stuff, you would stop the genocide in Gaza and call for a ceasefire. And they started chanting for a ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. And Biden looked shook. He knew what to do. And what did that black congregation start doing in response? I could not believe my eyes and ears when I saw this. The congregation drowned out the chance of a ceasefire with chants of 4 more years, 4 more years, 4 more years. 4 more years of what? What has Biden shown you in these 4 years that you want 4 more of that? And this is exactly why I went back to 4 years ago at that article. Our black elders are holding us back. They're defeated. They have no hope of changing anything. They only care about preserving their raggy little spot in the society at the expense of the masses. Biden is offering black people nothing right now. At least he lied 4 years ago. Now what he's offering you? Democracy. That's it. A vote for Biden, a vote for democracy. No policy discussions, no promises, democracy. And beating Trump. So on one hand, I can vote for democracy or I can vote for freedom. What do you want better, guys? Freedom or democracy? It's insulting. These Jim Clyburns, what has he done for black people? The Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons, what have they done for black people? Except get rich for themselves. They're fabulously wealthy. claiming to be an advocate for black people when all I see are gatekeepers and people paid to sell out black people paid to sell out black folks. I'm done with these dudes, man. These black elders, these boomers and the silent generation, I'm done with them dudes, man. They're losers. They're defeated. They're cowards. I got no respect for them. No respect for them at all. To chant 4 more years. 4 more years of nothing. And if that doesn't show you who these people are, we have to break from them. They love this white country way too much. Because they honestly, at the end of the day, they don't really see an issue. It's working for them. So 4 more years. I'm at a loss, man. I ain't gonna lie, man. Like that borderline broke my spirit yesterday when I saw that. I cannot believe my eyes and ears. 4 more years. And the question I have is to those people, 4 more years of what? What about the last 60 years? Is there a positive trend there for black people? The answer is no. The reason for that is because our black leaders, they don't see anything better for us. This is as good as it gets. It's time to wake up.